back to the kitchen. So today's video is gonna be a little different from normal. We're not fishing, we're not even cooking in the kitchen. We're actually going to be talking about plants. Now, I know what you're thinking, Brooke, why are you gonna be talking about plants? But you know, a lot of times people ask me, Brooke, what do you do when you're not fishing? And I love the outdoors. I'm constantly fishing, on the boat, diving, going to the beach, and like that's my hobbies. But I recently have found another hobby within the last like 6 months that I really enjoy, so I thought, why not share it with you guys? Also recently in a video, I showed you guys how I have a small little garden going to help Victor and I when we make videos to use fresh herbs and things like that in our videos. And someone asked me to make a video about my little garden, and I thought to myself, I don't know enough to do that, but why not share with you guys what I've learned in the last 6 months? Now, just as a disclaimer, I am in no way an expert at any of this. I've just myself done research, watched other YouTube videos, and I'm gonna share with you just the knowledge that I've learned and just some things that I find fun to do, and so maybe you guys can learn a little bit more about me, maybe you'll learn a little bit more about plants, so let's get going. All right, so we got a lot of stuff going on here. The first thing we're gonna start with is vegetables, then move on to herbs, and then into the plants that I find are the easiest to propagate. So, first, now Victor and I cook a lot in our videos, and one thing that we probably use the most often would be scallions. And this is probably the first thing that I ever started growing. So you go to the store, buy a little bundle of scallions, you come home, you cut them, and then you always throw away the little root end. Whether it be an inch, a half inch, however big it is. And all you have to do is just stick that little end into some water and you can regrow your own scallions. I've done this a bunch and I've planted them into soil now. So whenever we need scallion, we go outside to my little scallion garden and just chop off the tops, however much we want to use, and they just keep regrowing. Now you can leave them in water, but you have to change the water constantly or else it gets kind of gross. So like every 1 to 2 days you want to be changing the water. That's why I decided to move them outside into dirt, because then I don't have to worry about doing that. But this has only been 1 week. 1 week and we've already regrown that much.
From how much?
I'll have a photo right here from when I first planted them. And it was probably, what, like 1.5 inches that you left at the root end?
Yeah, I don't leave you much and they shoot up. They
grow so fast, so easy. You just have to remember to constantly change the water if you're leaving them in water, or you can just plant them in the soil. Now, everything I grow in water is just plain old tap water, but where I live in Florida, the tap water is safe to drink. So if you live somewhere where your tap water isn't safe to drink, then I would probably use filtered water. You have to think this is something that you're gonna be eating, so if you don't wanna drink the water, then you probably don't wanna grow something in that water. So there's that. Now, at that same time that I put those scallions in water, we also put celery in water. This is something new that we tried. Yes, you could use a lot more of this celery, but you can just chop off this end that you don't use, put it in water, and then you'll start growing new celery just like this. This has only been a week and it's already grown that much. I'm not saying that, you know, in 2 weeks you're gonna have a full head of celery, but it's fun to grow, it grows fast, so why not try it? Next thing is this leek that we're growing in water. This has been in water for 1 month. When we first put it in there, it was about 1.5 inches, and I'll be honest, it's looking a little sad. And I actually put this in the soil today, and it was in the soil for probably 2 minutes, and I was like, you know what? I think I'm gonna make a video on my plants, and I pulled it out of the soil, so that's why there's a little bit of dirt in the water. After this video, I'm probably gonna put it back outside in the soil. It is looking a little sad, but 1 month and it grew that much. I'll be honest, I was so excited. I was like, I definitely have a world record leek here. And I looked it up, and let me tell you, the world record leek is like 3,000 times this size. This is pretty impressive to me, but nowhere near a world record. I've actually never used a leek in cooking, but Victor uses them a lot in soup, so that's why we have a leek. Next thing we have is basil. Basil, I find, is the fastest growing herb that I have. I've tried propagating parsley, cilantro, and mint all in water before and I couldn't get it to get roots. These three that I have in soil, originally I propagated them in water from a cutting. So I went outside because I actually had a caterpillar infestation on my basil plant, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna lose all my basil from these caterpillars. So I chopped off the top of my basil plants, stuck them in this cute little propagation station I have here in some water, and within 1 week, I already had roots in the water. Now, these have been in here for probably 2 months. They could 100% be moved into soil, but I actually grew these for a friend, and then because of everything with the quarantine, I never got to give them to her, so they still have been in the water. But it's just a really fun thing to grow. You can use it in a bunch of different cooking dishes. You can make pesto with it, put it in salads, use it in pasta dishes, lots of things you can do with basil. It smells great, it looks cute, so that's why I grow basil. The other thing that I have in this little propagation station thing is this plant here. This is called a clusia. And when I first started doing plant research and figuring out what you could grow in water, it blew my mind how many plants that you can grow in water. And I'll be honest, I took this cutting from my neighbor's plant. I just chopped off the top of it because I was like, hey, that's one of those plants that you can grow in water. I'm gonna try it. This has been in water for 7 weeks, and that's all it's done. Very slow. I'm not gonna grow an entire plant anytime soon, but you know, it's just fun to see that it works. And maybe you guys recognize this. Maybe you have it in your yard, maybe you see it in a neighbor's yard, but that's what that is. Also called an autograph plant because of these big, beautiful leaves. Next thing we're moving on to is a bamboo plant. I feel like this is probably the most popular like house plant. People give them as gifts, people put them in their bathrooms and their bedrooms. Super easy to grow, don't need a lot of light, so I think a lot of people probably have them. My friend Jessica actually gave me this one. You know, you can buy them swirled and they look really pretty. And it's growing just in water, plain old water, and it's doing great. Now, this one is a cutting I took off of my mom's bamboo plant that actually was like 3 or 4 feet tall and was getting really close to her ceiling because it was in her windowsill. So I actually chopped it into 7 different pieces, or 6 different pieces. So I made all of these cuttings from one bamboo stalk. This is the top part. As you can see, it's growing the most roots so far. And then these have started to grow little roots down at the bottom. And then they all have started to get new little growth at the tops, right at the little nodes. I took the giant bamboo stalk, I cut it down just above this little part right here is called a node. I chopped it right above the node. I melted a candle and I stuck the top end into a candle so that bacteria couldn't grow at the top of the stalk. So all 5 of these pieces have a little bit of candle wax at the top, and then your growth grows out of this top little node. So you want to make sure you leave enough room so that you have that node at the top, and that's where your new growth's going to be. So I took 1 plant and now I'm turning it into 6 plants. So if you have a bamboo plant at home that's just gotten big and unruly, and you probably want to chop it down and make it smaller, instead of just throwing away the top, you can turn it into a bunch of more plants if you want. And they just grow nice and easy in water. And all these little like jar things that I have, you can buy any of these little things at the dollar store. This is from one of our crab dinners. The sauce that we use comes in these mason jars. So not really expensive little hobby. The other thing that's in this jar with this bamboo is some pothos cuttings. The bamboo's been in the water for 40 days and it hasn't really done a lot. I'm not saying that these things go quick because it definitely doesn't go fast, but I did some research and found that the pothos cuttings make things grow faster And after I put just these 2 little cuttings in with the bamboo, it started growing the roots and the sprouts much faster because it's been in there for 40 days and these things have probably been in there for like a week. Now, moving on to these, which is the pothos. Also a very easy plant to grow and a very popular house plant. That is probably the first plant that started my enjoyment of watching things grow. My friend Jessica gave me a cutting of her pothos and she told me stick it in water and it'll grow a whole new plant. And I had it sticking in water for probably 2 months and it didn't do anything. And I didn't even know what the plant was called. And so I asked her, I was like, hey, what's that plant called again? Because it hasn't done anything and it's been in the water for 2 months. She told me what it was, I did some research, and then within a week of properly putting it into water, I had roots and started a whole new plant. So I'm gonna show you how to do that. This is a big pothos that I have. I did buy this one. And you can just take a cutting off of it when it gets too long. We're gonna cut it, let's say right here, in between 2 leaves. Just like that. So whenever this gets too long, gets close to the floor, whenever you wanna cut it, instead of throwing this away, you can grow a whole new plant. So let me show you. So this is exactly what my friend gave me off of her pothos. She said, stick it in water, you'll grow a plant, which is kind of not really the proper way to do it. So let me show you. If you know a friend who has one of these, you can take a cutting off of their plant, or if you have one of these, you can just grow a bunch of more plants. But basically, you take your nice sharp cutters, and you're gonna cut on each side of the leaves, just like that. It doesn't have to be too big. And this right here is called a node. This is where your root's gonna grow out of once it touches the water. So there's that. There's another one. There's another one. Now each one of these leaves, once you plant it, is gonna grow a whole new vine. And then we'll leave that end one just like that. So now, you're gonna take all of these, stick them in water, and within a week, you'll already have something like this. So this has been in the water for a week, and here's our new cutting. And then in a week, we'll get something like this, and then within a month, you're gonna have a giant root that you'll be able to plant. And not only are you growing new plants, but it also looks really cute, just like that. That plant that my friend gave me is actually this one. So she gave me a cutting that had 7 leaves, and now this is what I have. And eventually, it'll turn into that big one like I have in the corner over there. This is probably one of my favorite plants, really easy to grow. I love the fact that you can make cuttings, put them in water, and just watch them grow, and it grows so fast. And then you can just take your one plant and turn it into a bunch of plants, and then you never have to buy another one. And then you can give them to friends. I've had a lot of friends say, hey, give me some of those cuttings. I wanna start my own plant. Moving on to this little guy. This is called a dumb cane, which I cut off a big plant. I cut off just the top of it and stuck it in water. This took 11 weeks to get just that little tiny bit of roots that are in there. 11 weeks. I thought it was never gonna start growing any roots. It took forever, but it's cute. Before you go buying any plants, do a little research because this plant is actually, I believe, toxic to like humans and dogs, cats, animals, stuff like that. So if you have babies or dogs or cats, make sure you do research before you buy any plants, which Victor and I don't have any of those, so the plants that I have kind of don't matter, but this plant is one of those plants that's toxic, so make sure you do some research on what plants are toxic before you buy them. Moving on to another really popular plant is the snake plant. They're a really popular outdoor plant as well as an indoor plant. They're known as one of the best like air purifying plants. Should I tell them where I got this, Vic?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Where you stole it, you mean?
I'll be honest, I don't know if it's technically stealing, but I took these from our neighborhood park. If you've seen these before, you've seen them in giant clumps. And I took off a couple cuttings, stuck them in water, and grew roots. Another really easy plant to propagate, but I'll tell you, it took forever to see roots. I think it took me 2 months before I ever saw a little tiny root. Another thing about like propagating things like this is, like if you're someone who goes to the store and buys a bouquet of flowers to put in a vase as decoration in your house, they last what? A week, 2 weeks tops, and then they die and you have to buy something else. This is just a really cute little thing you can put on your counter and it's never gonna die. You know, it might take forever to grow roots, but it looks really good. Put it in a cute vase. And it's something you can have as a little decor in your house. So there's the snake plant. You can also propagate all of these in soil as well, but I personally enjoy watching them grow the little roots versus sticking them in soil. You stick them in soil, you'll never know that they're growing roots, but it just looks cute to see the little roots growing in water. I got this little thing, this little propagation thing, as well as that other wooden one off of Amazon. I'll put a link in the description if you guys are interested in it. This one actually came with 2 little globes, which I shattered the first one within the first 10 seconds of owning it, so just be very careful. And the final plant. This is a ZZ plant. I really wanted one of these. They have really pretty shiny leaves. Super cool plant, but again, I didn't want to buy one. So I actually took a couple cuttings off of a friend's plant, and I have a few different things going on here. These have been in water now for 5 weeks. So I have a video when I first did this, I had 3 cuttings. The plant that I cut these off of was absolutely giant. So these cuttings are probably like this big. So I got a bunch of cuttings from just 3. So the first thing I did was cut off the tops, and I chopped off the leaves and then stuck that into water. These are probably doing the best so far with the most root growth. So I have 3 of the top cuttings, then I have the bottom cuttings, which are slowly starting to grow roots. I don't have any of the leaves in the water, so the stems depth don't really matter as much as you don't want the leaves in the water. And then over here I have a couple just of the center cuts that are also starting to grow roots now. Just like that. And then eventually my plan is to stick these into soil. I'm not gonna leave them in water forever. I'm gonna eventually plant them until they get roots that are probably around this big, then I'll plant them in soil. So leaving them in water for now. And then the slowest thing that's growing is just the leaves, but they're starting to grow little roots as well. Now, like I said, you can also stick them in soil if you wanted to. I stuck some leaves in soil, and if you take the leaves out of the soil, they basically have the exact same amount of growth as the ones in the water do. So you can either stick them in soil, but then again, you can't watch it, so if you enjoy watching them, grow them in the water versus in the soil. All right guys, well I hope you enjoyed that extremely different video than what I normally do. It's been pouring rain for about 4 days straight and really windy, so haven't been able to go fishing. Don't have a fishing video for you, so I decided why not do a plant video. If you guys have any questions, again, I'm not an expert, but if I can help you, then comment down below and I'll try to answer your question. If you guys have any tips for me, go ahead and comment them down below as well. And if you guys like this video, you can also tell me that. I'm very curious to see what you guys thought about this kind of thing. As always though, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Alright guys, I'm not a crazy plant person. I'm not a crazy plant person.
You're a plant enthusiast.
I don't have hundreds of plants. I am by no way an expert planter, gardener,